Let's see, let me move over to Zoom. Why don't we start with Thomas?
Hi.
Why don't you just tell us where you're from, what your interest is in market, and anything else you want to share with us?
Sure. So I'm from the Dallas area. I work with Chainlink, and so yeah, my interest is oracles.
Cool. Hey, thanks for being part of the call. Really happy to have you here.
No problem.
Bass. Are you there? You don't look like you're muted. Let's move on to Collins then.
Hey guys, I'm Collins. I'm one of the co-founders of Market Protocol. I have been derelict in my joining of the engineering calls recently, but I'm really excited to see what you guys have been working on today and see what Travis and Phil end up doing.
Sweet. Thanks very much, Collins. Lazar.
Morning, everyone. This is Lazar, Community Manager for Market Protocol. Same as Collins, joining this call to see what exciting trading pair Travis and Phil gets to choose. And for myself, which side am I going to choose for that trade as well? Because I plan to participate as much as I can.
Thanks, Lazar. We're going to have to let the banter go between Phil and Travis here in a few minutes. Hey, John, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure, guys. Just learned about your project recently. Just kind of interested in what you guys are working on and just kind of want to sit back and learn more about the project.
Great. Thanks for joining us. You're at the right place. Dano.
Okay, I found the mute button. Good morning. Boulder blockchain was great. Loved Industrious.
Hey, thanks. Hopefully we'll do it here again. Perfect.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Perfect. I'm a contributor to Market Protocol. Still actively contributing and very much interested in the project.
Thanks, Perfect. You've been knocking it out of the park lately, so we appreciate that. Patrick.
Sorry, I said to skip me because there was background noise, but I guess I can talk now. I'm an advisor and sometimes technical contributor on the project.
Great, thanks, Patrick. Travis.
Hi, my name is Travis. I'm a core developer on Market Protocol.
Sweet, thanks, Travis. Travis is one of our core contributors, as we'll point out some others as well. I really like this handle Option Z because it lends well to what we're doing. Tell us a little about yourself. Okay, we'll move on to Abbas. All right, we'll move on to Nitin.
Hey guys, I'm Nitin. I'm a product designer and a front-end developer at Market Protocol. Yep.
Thanks, Nitin. Nitin's also one of our core contributors. Eswar.
Hey everyone, I'm Ishwar. So I'm part of the core team at Market Protocol, majorly working on the front-end technologies. So yeah.
Thanks, Eswar. And Jay Herman.
Hi, I'm Joshua Herman, and I wrote an independent blockchain developer, and I also wrote a Medium post about Market Protocol as like a beta test of the D apps.
I remember that one early on. Thanks very much for the contribution and welcome to the call.
Thanks.
And last but not least, Barbie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Barbie Elsasser. I am in a relationship with one of the founders. And that was a joke, guys. I am married to one of them. And I do whatever they need me to do and help out the team where I can. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, Barbie's the one that really runs the place, just so we're clear. All right, AC77. Just introduce yourself and tell us a little about why you're here. Okay, we'll leave that one alone. So thanks everybody for joining us on the call today. We're really happy to have a growing community, and also again, just really appreciate the contributions that everyone makes to the project, whether it be technical or non-technical, as you'll find out today. We're experimenting with the agenda, and one of the conversations we had on our own internal team call was, how do we get a broader audience involved, not so much from a business perspective, but to help shape our product. And so today we do have an agenda item that we're going to start off with, which is something that I'll term our product design, UX, UI type of conversation. And this is typically when we're at a point where we're trying to do something significant with a project, and there's varying opinions as far as how that needs to be done. And so it's really great to hear from the community and also from non-technical folks about how they might want to see a use case or a user flow work in our project. So with that, what we're talking about is our Contract Explorer. And so today, the plan is to have several views of that. One is more of an iconic view. Another one is more of a list view. But as a trader or an individual that wants to complete a trade, sometimes what you want to do is you want to be able to find a contract. And sometimes there's a contract that's already created that you can trade against. Other times you need to create a new contract, and you might want to see similar ones that are associated with that contract. So I'm setting this up for Nitin, and Nitin, hopefully I didn't blow your thunder there. But essentially what we want to do is get some feedback from the community on how you might want to see that happen as a trader on the platform. So Nitin, let me hand it over to you just to give additional background information. And if you have anything that you want to show in the way of any sort of designs as well, that might be appropriate for this conversation.
Sure. Thanks, Robert. I'll just share my screen now. Let me know if you guys are able to see the screen. You guys able to see my screen, right?
Not yet.
Not yet, Nitin.
Just 1 second in that case. Okay. Yep. I think you guys should be able to see the screen now.
There it is. Thank you.
All right. So yeah, like Robert mentioned, right? So we were kind of brainstorming internally with navigating from one contract to another in our simulated exchange. Like all of you guys already might know that this is the design which we are kind of doing for the simulated exchange in our DApp. And so we have a tiny little on top. We have a place where we can switch between multiple contracts in the simulated exchange. And right now, the UI for that is kind of a mess. So we were trying to improve that. And one of the proposed solution for that was just like a simple type drop down where user can search with whatever contracts they want to search on, and just select whatever it is and get inside into the simulated exchange. And we were just like brainstorming around this, and there were a lot of discussion happening internally. And so we just wanted to open this up and give a platform for you guys as well, to the community, to get some feedback with that as well. So here's the problem. So right now, I mean, in the future as well, we'll be having thousands of contracts to be selected where user can trade inside them, right? And so we were just wanted to tackle which is the best and easiest way for users to navigate from one contract to another. So right now, one simple way is like providing a search option for selecting whichever contract available over there. And we were also brainstorming between having a more complex way of doing that. So this is a simple UI which I just mocked up. So on clicking off the contract name, we allow the user to kind of search whatever the contract they want. And we also have a bit of filters here and there for the users to kind of quickly navigate. If, for example, if he wants to see certain contracts which have high balance, you can just click on that tab and select whatever it is. So we were just kind of brainstorming which would be the best way for the users to kind of navigate from one contract to another. I know there are a lot of trading gurus out there in the call, and so I just want to hear your feedback as well.
Hey, Nitin, I stepped away for a moment, but did you explain the contract name, how we've come up with that, and that there's a standardized part of that name?
Not yet, Robert. Probably
Okay.
you can. Yeah.
Um,
Do you want to explain how that works?
Yes, I think that'd be helpful for people because once you understand that the naming convention behind what all of those letters mean, it's a lot more helpful, and potentially might give you some insight or other people insight on how they might want to work with contracts in the future.
Got it. So here's the flow which we right now have for creating a contract. So we select any exchange, and then we kind of select the base pair to be traded on. And then this is actually an old UI right now. So the contract name is kind of pre-filled. So basically we have whatever the exchange, and then the base pair, and then the timestamp over here on the next, right? So here's how the final contract name would be. So the first few letters, alphabets would be the exchange name, and the next would be the trader, the base pair, and then next the timestamp, and then whatever the user enters in the contract name. So this how it's kind of from the point of exchange till the point of the expiration timestamp, it's kind of fixed. So we are kind of fixing that kind of name because we want to extract certain data later on in the Explorer UI. So that is the reason we've made it fixed, and then append whatever custom name user want to have over there. So this is how the contract name has been created, basically during the contract creation process. And once the contracts are created, and then user will be able to see them in these drop downs, basically in this. So yeah, I just want to get some discussion going on with like which would be the best way for users to kind of like navigate from, like filter out these contacts from.
I personally like the search with many filters.
Okay. So
I think it gives the most flexibility. Even having some additional filters besides like high balance or expiring soon, so that you could possibly see like all EOS F contracts regardless of exchange or whatever, whatever, regardless of the Oracle that you're pulling the data from or the API or whatever.
Got it. Yeah, so even I kind of personally felt that, but so there's a trade-off between, so this is kind of a bit complex, heavy operations, right? So it's not straightforward. Not that actually, but it's kind of a complex situation over here. It's too much information once we click on that, and a lot of things are going on over here, right? Compared to this previous screen, which is it's like a simple list of thing. But yeah, so it's the question is like how best the user can navigate, whether user will be searching via contract names or would filter actually help or not.
I would
just clear.
One at a time. Who's talking?
I'll let the guests say it first. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it was actually me and you, Lazar. This is Collins.
Oh, okay.
This is for the SIM, right? Is essentially what the scope of this design is for, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's true, Collins.
Okay, great. So one thing that I've seen previous trading applications have is they would have like subfilters. So, you might be able to select like all ETH-based contracts, and then that kind of, you might have like 10 different things in there you can select. And then when you select that one, it has 5 things in that subfilter. Like, I'm not explaining this very well, but I can send you a screenshot or something like that later to show you what it was. But, you know, there would be thousands and tens of thousands of different trading contracts and exchanges that we would trade on. And you could just easily like select, you want all ETH contracts, and then you want all EOS contracts. So if you think that's a good idea, I'll send that over too.
Awesome. Yeah, please do share that over, Collins. That'll be really helpful.
Okay.
I agree with him. Basically, since we know that, you know, these trades settle in the collateral currency, like in the base currency, I would assume that like the first search item through the filtering should be the base currency, because that's what the people need to post in order to trade. And then you can have the second filter to define which reference asset is traded within the contract. I think that's pretty much logical. And what Collins just proposed is exactly what I intended to say. So, yeah.
Got it. So I think we can kind of work out and kind of narrow down certain filters, which would be really helpful. That's awesome. I think we are heading in the right direction. Awesome.
I'm going to time box this conversation for 5 minutes just in case we roll over.
I think I'm done with from my side. Anyone has any feedback or any additional thoughts, feel free to share.
A couple of items on chat. If someone else wants to speak, by the way, just interrupt me. John said, give the users the ability to name the contract so you can search both the ad and the name. And so I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, given the ability to put a label on the end of the contract that allows individuals to create a unique name if they'd like to, does that take care of your question or concern?
Yeah, exactly. So that, you know, I mean, just as a user, I'm going to narrow down my pairs, you know, within the first 30 minutes of using the exchange. And so, you know, just something favorites or something like that where I could go to and just see my top 5 or top 10 that I'm monitoring every day, every minute, whatever I'm doing.
Great.
Yeah. John,
That's a great one.
Yeah, on that note, there's definitely going to be like a watch list. So essentially just exactly that functionality, which is just like you log onto your TD Ameritrade account and, you know, put the stocks in there that you care about. You would have the same functionality here where you'd be able to have those contracts that you want to be watching and some sort of drop down as well. Do you want to just briefly show the login screen that's been proposed that kind of has that watch list?
Login screen using.
We've got a couple more questions, so go ahead and do that quickly if you could, Nitin.
I'm not sure which one do you mean?
The home screen that we were talking about if you were logged in, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So John, this is a kind of an example of that idea, right? Where that bottom right corner, you see my watch list. So you'd be able to add contracts to that. That would be things that you've traded recently or keeping an eye on.
Yeah, makes total sense, guys. Thank you.
There's Dano also suggested that we use an ISO style timestamp. That's interesting. Instead of the Unix style.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a little bit more of indication of exactly when that does expire. Any thoughts about that, guys?
So we certainly are using, I mean, the Unix timestamps and the contract names themselves, but then displaying that information in obviously human readable formats, both in the Explorer and even here on this screen, right? The expiration is not absolute time, but rather a countdown. So creating a search that is in a human readable format, I definitely think is valuable. Whether or not we need to actually change that in the contract name itself, though, you definitely consider that. The idea was that creating that contract name is basically information that's all contained already in the contract. So in Solidity, we're designating those contract timestamps or those expiration timestamps in Unix epoch time. So it's definitely something we can talk about more and consider.
Yeah, Dano, if you have any additional information or feedback, jump on Discord. We'd love to have more conversation around that. So thanks for the suggestion. And then Patrick said, is the search contract anchored so that the text has to be exact, or is it possible to enter several compound floating criteria in the text box like bin, quantum, ETH, similar to the Google search with multiple criteria separated by spaces rather than a single exact match text criteria?
I defer it to the Phil or developers. I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, yeah, go ahead, Phil.
I mean, certainly it needs to be more than just an exact string search. So having the ability to do things exactly like you were saying would be super beneficial to that. So it's not right now, but it should be in the future, and that's a great feature request to allow a more flexible pattern.
Great, thanks, Patrick. That's all the questions that we have in the chat. I would also encourage anybody else that has any suggestions, again, jump on Discord. The core team is always there in some capacity, 24/7, given the time zones we work in. And and if there's something specific that you find that you'd like to enter as an issue, just always we encourage you to go to our ZenHub board and be able to go ahead and enter that. So if someone could enter that link into this chat, that would be awesome, so people have access to that. Okay, thanks very much. I really appreciate that. Was a little bit of an experiment on our side to try something a bit different on the call, and I think I was really happy with the feedback that we got. So thanks again. So this week we're moving on to more of the nitty gritty on how not only the iteration's going, but also the project in general. So we've got a number of goals this week. Complete our CMS integration, which has been completed, just allowing our marketing individuals to be able to quickly turn content and get it onto our website. So we've completed that. There's also some technical documentation examples for Exchange partners and other folks that want to use our API. The good news is that Phil's going to review that on one of the demos during the call. There's always more Market.js work that we're doing to support the simulated exchange. A lot of UX, UI work that we were doing this week with open positions, fills, executions, the grid view of contracts, the wallet UI, and a variety of other things. So we'll start to demo. In fact, some of the pieces that you saw on the call today have come to life, and we'll start to demo those over the next few weeks. There's a variety of other tasks in the way of our order book management and a backend API that allows us to make our DApp a bit faster. And we're really pleased with not only from a performance perspective on the front end, but also just simply working with a service listener to be able to populate the information in our databases to make our DApp more usable. And we're always stomping bugs. So if you ever see anything out there, again, please log anything that you might see. So one of the core contributor members can check that out and give you some feedback and put that into our queues. Any questions? All right, on to the commits. Again, we always appreciate our community getting involved with our project. It's funny, we have a habit of contributors contributing to our project and then becoming core members of our team. So we have a running cycle of individuals that you'll see their names pop up in the community commits, and then they'll go away because we don't recognize the core contributors on the community commits because we want to recognize the community. So thanks again for all your work this week. We really appreciate it. And again, continue to check out the issues on our ZenHub board or our Gitcoin account on gitcoin.io. We did a number of releases this week. The demo projects and CMS, the CMS was a result of moving more of a CMS functionality again, so our marketing individuals can publish information on a quicker basis. The demo projects is where the the examples will exist for creating a Market.js project. And then as we scroll down the Market.js, there was a 4.1 release. Market API also was released. We did an iteration on the website, and the docs were iterated to support the tutorial that will support the demo project and the code within that. Our monthly release, we've got the full house and the team back again, so off to a bang this release, and making a lot of progress toward the goals. that we set out. So kudos to everybody that's contributing to the project. So thanks again. Any sort of heads up we do this section simply because as a core team or community, we typically find things that are like, hey, I need to tell somebody else about, whether it's something that's broken, a bug, or just a way to do something that makes it easier. So if you have anything, I'll pause here for just a moment. Please feel free to chime in. I should play the theme for Jeopardy here.
Test and market protocol are currently broken. There's something up with the Docker installation. So I just was starting to work on some Solidity stuff today and actually looking to start working on to integrate Chainlink into that repo. And yeah, so something there if you're looking at that repo, just to be aware of.
Great, thanks, Phil. Just as a side note to Chainlink, there is a issue in the backlog right now, and it is in progress. And so we're discussing what integration into our project would look like in an MVP. So anybody in the call, if you have any comments or feedback on how that might need to work or would work, feel free to comment on that issue, and we'd love to hear your feedback. All right, so it's demo time, and we're going to have Phil and Travis make a trade for real this time. So I'm going to turn this dog and pony show over to Phil and Travis, and so guys, take it away.
All right, let's see here. So I'll share my screen real quick.
Yeah, why don't you share and I'll create the order and you fill it?
Great, that works.
And I would recommend opening your console so that they can see all the action there.
Hey guys, is that a real trading UI?
That is the real trading UI starting to come to life.
Yeah, so just to show you guys, I mean, this, you guys saw just the design earlier in the call, and this is the implementation of that design, which is definitely coming along. You can click over to position and fills. You can create buy and sell orders. You can deposit collateral and see balances. So we're working on kind of all those pieces in parallel to get this thing to what the mock that you saw Nitin present earlier. All right, so Travis is going to go ahead and create an order, and I'm going to fill it just to show you a little bit of what this actually looks like. Back end. Let's see here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this on my laptop, actually. Might be too big. All right, well, Travis, why don't you just create the order? We don't even need to, we can just paste the JSON blob into the chat versus doing that.
Okay. So I am going to create a buy order for 1 Bitcoin, and I am willing to pay $6,779 US dollars or USDT for my 1 Bitcoin. And I am going to create, maybe I should share my screen for this moment so they can at least see the whole process, and then we'll swap the screen over while you fill it.
That sounds great, yeah. Let me see, I'll stop my sharing, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see, share screen. And I'm going to share that one. Okay, can you guys see my trade screen? Or the exchange?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. So you can actually see here that we are pulling some of these widgets, even though the data is not being displayed. The data is already being pulled in. We're just waiting for the style. So you can actually see here that this was the original, the very first trade that we did to test this. And this was the positions that we have and the fills that we've made. So this isn't actually the first test, but it is the first live demo of a trade on the Ethereum network. So pretty cool. So we're going to create a buy order here with an expiration of roughly 30 days. for one Bitcoin at 6,779, which is about $100 less than current spot price, according to Preet. So you're going to see that it's asking to buy one. There's some UI bugs here, definitely, so ignore those, but we are looking at the logic at the moment. So it's going to ask me to sign and validate that I'm going to pay for this. So, and it's going to give me back a signed order JSON blob here in my console. And you can actually, so we're developing a way that you can actually share this with others and make it easy for them to fill your order without having to come to an actual exchange. You can have, you can share your trade via Twitter, and somebody could just fill it right from Twitter versus something having to find it inside of an actual exchange. There's many ways that this could be used. But for now, we're going to take this and I'm going to paste it into Phil. And I have lost the chat here. That's weird. Give me just a second. Zoom is, let me stop my share because there's nothing else for me. I have chat back now. So I'm now gonna paste that JSON blob into chat. And so any of you could actually go to the D app if you had access and fill this for us. The taker is set to the Ethereum null address, which tells us that anyone can fill it. So now Phil can take that JSON blob and go into our temporary demo fill order box that we've created.
That's going to get dangerous.
All right. So just to show you this, so I'm basically just taking that JSON blob that Travis posted. I'm going to submit that here, and that will, hopefully you guys can see this, but basically it just asks me for confirmation from Rinkeby for MetaMask, and make sure it's going to confirm that transaction, and that order will be filled. Let's see here. Travis, I'm going to have to show in my console, right, for that to actually be.
Yeah, that's where the transaction order info will be displayed. And then you'll be able to get the transaction ID. There you go. So you can get that if you cut and paste that transaction hash there, you could just go to your.
Cool. So you just saw it got confirmed. I don't know if you guys saw that as well. And also the same thing here, which is we can go and check out that transaction. So we can see that it was successful. The trade occurred. And with that, me and Travis are now entered into a position. So it's not quite there yet, but if we were to refresh this screen, which I guess I can do, this should work, right, Travis, or not quite yet?
You shouldn't need to, well, you can refresh it. But yeah, no, it'll definitely work. You could just change contracts. It's faster to just select a contract and go back to the same contract. But yeah, that works just as well.
Hey, I want to see Phil's.
So when this is completed, a user would be able to just submit an order to an order book. So you would basically create that order, just as you saw Travis do, and that would allow that to be propagated to an order book, and then another user would be able to fill it. So it wouldn't be pasting in a chat, but it's just an example of how that actually works with that. So go to this contract explorer, which needs to be cleaned up. We go back to that contract.
And so now if you open up your console, and if you, if you go, just squeeze that console down a little bit if you can, so it fixes the responsiveness in the UI.
Let's try here. It's a little tight on my laptop.
You can just make it pretty small. It doesn't need to be, there you go, that's perfect. And if you just click the positions tab now, you shouldn't, there you go. You should see that there's some positions that get returned.
Awesome. So yeah, so these are the positions that I have now, which shows that I'm short. Again, it's really hard on my laptop here. But anyways, we can see that the trade went through, and now our positions are recorded on the blockchain. Collateral was withdrawn from my trading account and is now locked into that smart contract based on the positions that I have. If Travis and I were to exit those, that collateral would be refunded back to my account in that contract and able to be withdrawn. So that's the first successful trade with a live audience.
Woohoo!
I think I got the better end of that deal.
Yeah, for sure. We'll find out.
I'm on Travis' end. Yeah. Shorting Bitcoin right now, not so smart, Phil.
Maybe you're right.
So can Phil or Travis, can somebody kind of walk everyone through, because you know there was a lot of copy and pasting numbers and everything. So kind of like soup to nuts, exactly what happened there. So obviously there was a contract that was created previously by somebody, and then how the funds moved from one wallet to another, and then what your position is locked in, and then explain what happens when you exit that, just real quick for anybody who's on the call who might not be as familiar with the project as everybody else.
Sure. So a contract has been deployed. That is essentially this contract that we selected here, deployed earlier, that is using the price of Bitcoin versus Tether on Binance. So Tether is just a US dollar stablecoin. And so we're going to use the price of Binance to eventually settle this contract in the future. Travis created an order, and when he did that, he signed that order. So that's an off-chain transaction where he's simply using his private key to sign that order, that we know that therefore it's valid and it hasn't been manipulated. When that he created that thing that was the JSON blob that was posted into that chat, basically that is just the structure of an order that's been signed, and it contains a signature. I'm able to take that, copy that, and that part again would be abstracted by an order book in the future, but I'm able to paste that in, create that order, the signed order from Travis, and I'm able to call trade order on that which allows that order to be filled. And what that means is that Travis and I have basically matched our desires to trade, and our collateral has moved from the smart contract that it's deposited in a way that's originally able to be withdrawn to a place where it's locked. So that trade is always collateralized. So there's no risk of a margin call or counterparty risk or forced liquidation. We know that the contract's solvent. And upon me and Travis exiting, that collateral would be returned to us plus or minus our profit and loss. So since I'm short, if the price of Bitcoin goes down and I exit that position later, Travis decides he needs to get out of that position and sells back to me at a loss. At that point, I would make money and Travis would lose money, and that collateral would be returned to us. So that's more or less the trade life cycle on there. If we weren't going to exit the position, we would wait to this contract to expire, which was happening in 17 days from now. And in 17 days from now, an Oracle solution, right now this is hooked up to Oracleize it, but in the future would be Chainlink or other Oracle providers, would give us that data back, and then that contract would expire and settle to the price of Bitcoin on Binance. And that would allow us to then settle the contract, meaning that same thing, if the price went down, I would make money and Travis would lose money. And so our remaining collateral will be returned to us plus or minus a profit and loss, depending on which side was the winner in the trade.
Thanks.
Great job, guys. I really appreciate you going through that. I think it was so Phil's short, right? Travis is long. That's all we need to remember at this moment. And we have a record of the trade, by the way. So we'll see how this turns out.
Definitely. If real quick, you guys just want to look at the text that was pasted in there. You can see the format of what that order is, and basically it's. I'll just quickly show you. It's a contract address, some timestamps that show when the orders are going to expire, some information about our personal addresses, prices, and quantities, and then the very end of it is this VRS, which is this elliptic curve signature that is actually what Travis signed. So we create a hash from all the information in the order, and then that hash gets signed by Travis's private key, and then that's able to be sent to me, and we can verify that was signed directly by Travis. So when we analyze that, we'll get back his public key, which is basically just his Ethereum address, and that therefore we know that everything is valid for that order. Any more questions on there before we move on?
Okay, let's, one more topic. We've got the demo project and tutorial. So Phil, why don't you quickly take us through that?
Okay, great. So let me see if I can share the other. So I'm not sure if this will work. Let's try it and you guys can let me know. Are you guys able to see these three consoles on Ubuntu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So just a quick note, I noticed if you go back to your tab first.
Sorry, what was that, Travis?
I was just gonna say, if you show them your console right there, you can actually see the fills come back for that contract from the trade history that says get fills async, contract fills async. You can see all of the trades made on that contract so far. And so that's coming back from the trade history widget, which is yet, the data hasn't been brought into the UI, but the data is there about the contract.
Very cool. Yeah, so this is me and Travis trading yesterday and then today. So all the information's there in terms of the hash of the order, which is, again, what we created, quantities, prices, etc. All right, so
Phil, before you start, would you just pause, state your name and what you're demoing, just for the purposes of Lazar in our external videos?
Totally. Phil Elsasser, co-founder and CTO of Market Protocol. We're going to go through a little bit of our demos today. We've created a demo project that shows some of the functionality in market.js, which is a library to abstract away a lot of the complexities of dealing with the Ethereum blockchain and our smart contracts in general. So I'm going to show this. It's available on GitHub under demo projects. The first demo project that we've created is just an orders tutorial. And there's some really detailed instructions on docs.marketprotocol.io in terms of how to bring up the development environment. I'm just going to do this real quick on the call, but happy to go through it with anyone in depth later, or I think that tutorial also will help. I have a Truffle development environment set up here, and I have the Oracleize It Ethereum bridge set up here to allow our contracts to interact with external data. I'm going to deploy the Market Protocol suite of contracts to Truffle, which is basically just an Ethereum test environment. So I'm going to do that with this call here, and that will deploy all the needed contracts to allow us to interact with a local instance of the blockchain. Okay, so now we have all of the contracts there, and I have an Ethereum test RPC or a test environment that's running now. And to show you this briefly, so this is the main tutorial using Web3, which is a library that allows us to interact with any Ethereum node. But in this case, we're connecting it to just this local one that I have running. So we connect through to that, create this instance of Web3, which then plugs into market.js. So if we instantiate market.js here, it provides a nice functionality for us to go through, find contracts, and be able to trade them. Once I have that instance of market, I can go ahead and get all the contracts that are deployed. And again, this is locally, so I just have a single contract deployed that happened with a migration script that I just ran. So when I do this, it basically finds the address of that contract. I can get contract metadata from it, which I'll show you when we actually run this in a second. That metadata would include information about the Oracle solution, some of the decimals that are needed to convert things from integers to, or from floats to integers, as well as addresses. For the sake of the demo, we've set up two accounts that already have collateral tokens, that already own tokens. So we're using like a fake USD token here, and both these accounts have sufficient balances of those tokens. So we're going to call them Trader A and Trader B. Market allows us to call, again, this is market.js, to call two functions to allow collateral to move from that user's wallet into our smart contracts. So basically there's this approve, which just says, hey, I approve that we're going to allow a market contract or a market collateral pool to obtain that. And then this deposit is the final call, which moves those amounts. Once we've done that, we can create an order. And this is exactly what Travis did in the UI. But we're going to call this create signed order async function. So we hand in some information about what our order is going to look like, and that gets created and signed by Trader A. So Trader A here is acting as a maker. And then Trader B is able to call trade order async on that signed order object from Trader A. That'll fill the order, so those will match. All the needed collateral deposits and withdrawals and locking will occur. And now both Trader A and Trader B will have opposing positions, and we can get those positions using get user positions async and display those. And then we can also display the new balances that are in the that they have in order to be able to trade more with. So some of their collateral has now become locked. And so you can see the difference between the original collateral that was deposited and then what is now unallocated in order to be able to trade more. So it's a really quick tutorial that's meant to just show people one way to interact with market.js and our smart contracts. And I'll go ahead and run this real quick here. Maximize this so we can see it. So this is just going to run the code that we just went through or not. One sec here. I haven't done this on my laptop, which I should have. This should just take a second though.
I appreciate the live demo, Phil. You are brave.
Yep, for sure. Is there any questions while this is installing about what I just went over?
Is this Phil a part of the API infrastructure that other projects like third-party relayers will be able to implement? What exactly is this feature supposed to do?
Yeah, so market.js is the main library that people would be writing or using to implement exchange-like functionality. So a decentralized exchange, like Shark Relay, for instance, if they wanted to create a simulated exchange or a real exchange like our simulated exchange, they would use market.js. So our simulated exchange is written to market.js. So essentially all the functionality, like that signed order async method that I showed you, is exactly what Travis called on the back end when he showed you in the UI that he was signing that order. So all of this functionality is essentially what's exactly in our simulated exchange. This is just a really small subset of functionality meant to be shown as a tutorial for it. So I ran this code. So we created this market instance that's connected to Truffle. So the network ID is 4447 on that. It found this contract, which another BTC USD contract, this time looking at Kraken for settlement information. Some more information here about just the contract in general, price cap and price floor, and some other things like the Oracle query itself. And then this is the information about it attempting to create the trade. We can see that it actually went through. There's a quantity of 1. So displays some information about both traders' open positions and then remaining collateral for each of those traders as well. So just a small piece of functionality in order to show people a really quick way to get our development environment up and running and being able to interact with our smart contracts.
Yeah, one other comment, Lazar, I just want to make on this is that I know this is a very technical demo, but what's super important about this is that once we're done creating relationships at a business level, it really turns over to the technology. And what's very, very important in a common best practice is to have a sort of a how-to from a developer perspective, because the last thing you want to do is allow engineers to like, well, how does this work and what pieces do I need and what's the order flow? So what Phil's done is he's created a template, if you will, to say, okay, if you want to get started, here's how you need to implement this. And so someone could take these code snippets and implement it and get up and running in probably 5 or 10 minutes, which is a huge advantage to us, because then you've greased the skids and the engineers are like, oh, okay, great. And then adaptation and such starts to come into play where, hey, I can do this and I can change this to suit our needs here. So it's a super important thing of a super important project and tutorials and code examples to provide out to the technical folks and our partners.
That's great. This is a like sort of a back-end functionality, right? How does this correlate to other types of UI and UX environments? Do they have to implement that part of the story as well? Or like this can be just plugged into any UI UX and it will self-adjust? I mean, maybe my question is dumb because I'm not a dev, but yeah, more or less. Just wanted to see how those two correlate.
So all of our partners are able to implement their own UI and UXs. They're also, because our UI is open source, they should feel free to be able to borrow or steal any pieces of that they want to. But just like the many Zero-X relayers out there are competing on user experience and user interfaces, partners that are building on top of us will do the same thing. So yes, there's many different front-end environments or front-end technologies that could be used to plug into Market.js. Market.js is written in TypeScript, but there's lots of different front ends that could interact with that besides our own. But all the Zero-X relayers are basically connecting to Zero-X.js, which is the analogous library in their world that is also written in TypeScript, for example.
That's
great. One way to look at it from a non-technical way is think of Market.js like a Christmas present. And Market.js is the wrapping paper on the outside of the present, and Market Protocol is the present inside of it. And what Market.js does is make that non-uniform shape, that very, the protocol can be challenging to work with because there's a lot of buildup that goes into making one of these function calls. There's a lot of things you got to look into on the blockchain, a lot of instantiation things to worry about, and we kind of abstract all that away, make it a nice square box with a wrapping package on it, and hand you Market.js and say, call these functions, input this data, and we'll give you back everything you need.
Does that make Phil a Santa then?
Yes, yes, definitely. So just to quickly here, anyone can go to this. I'll post it in the chat in just a second here, but this is the corresponding tutorial that goes along with what we just went over. So it has both the code snippets here as well as just more text to walk someone through all the functionality that we just talked about. So Lazar, I mean, basically in like 5 function calls, we went through creating an order, signing an order, trading an order, and then also depositing collateral and dealing with all that. And so it's again, just a really simplified way of interacting with all this. We showed you on the back end all the pieces that needed to happen for that. There's probably like 30 plus steps that we are able to abstract into like 5 steps. And one of the other small pieces that's really important to note for Market.js is if we're calling anything on the blockchain, it's going to cost gas. And so we want to be really sure that if we call an on-chain function, it's going to be successful. So for instance, in the trade order async function that we're calling in Market.js, it does as much verification as possible before calling an on-chain transaction that's possibly going to waste gas. So we can have a much better user experience without people essentially wasting money to find out that their transaction is not going to go through because something's not valid or they don't have enough collateral or the order is not signed correctly. So we can handle that all off-chain in Market.js and make sure that people preserve their gas for when a transaction is actually going to go through.
Okay, guys,
great. Yeah.
We need to stop there. We're running out of time. We have one small little topic. Thank you, Phil. That was an awesome demo. And again, there's a lot of complexity that's been abstracted away, and it looks very simple. And it's quite complex under the covers, but that's the point of doing Market.js, to make sure that it is simple. I'm going to put in a link in the chat. I just want to have a couple-minute discussion to see if any of you have any ideas or feedback on our API documentation for Market.js. And so this was TypeDoc, I think, is what we're using now. And it was simply something we just started with. It's not really what we'd like it to be. We don't think it's as the navigation and the presentation of the material isn't all that good from a usability perspective. So any feedback or comments from the community as far as other projects that you've used that work well with API documentation? Is this just simply a theming and a styling issue? Let me know what your feedback is on the Docs Market.io for the APIs. And again, the link is in the chat.
Cool. So I want to thank everyone for joining today, especially everyone that's new to the project. It's really great to have more people on the call and more feedback. There's also a link in the chat for Discord. Feel free to join us if there's other stuff that you want to bring up. Our goal is to be super accessible. Everything that we're doing is open source. All the development environment or discussions that are happening around architecture decisions from documentation decisions. Again, we really want community input and love the fact that people are interested in the project. So feel free to engage us on Discord or GitHub and give us feedback.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. And oh, by the way, there is inspiration or not, there is a link in there. Please check it out. I was actually surprised to see by number of acres, what's the biggest use in the United States of our land. Check it out. It's quite an interesting infographic. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.